Kirk Cousins is a two-time Pro Bowl nominee and has transformed into one of the NFL's better quarterbacks. Cousins has made a lot of money in his career, including the previous largest contract in league history that he signed with the Minnesota Vikings in 2018. Before his rise to the top of the league, Cousins was a late fourth-round pick at the 2012 NFL Draft, where the Washington Redskins took a shot on him. The pick was a major hit for the Redskins, but which quarterbacks were taken ahead of Cousins? Before we jump into the video, I'd like to take a second to acknowledge that the majority of our viewers aren't subscribed to the channel. Darren and I are both college students and hope to one day make this our full-time job. So please, if you do enjoy, consider subscribing and helping us on our road to 100K. Thank you, and enjoy the video. Before we talk about the 7 quarterbacks taken ahead of Kirk Cousins, let's take a brief look at his road to fame. Kirk Daniel Cousins was born on August 19, 1988 in Barrington, Illinois. Cousins attended Holland Christian High School in Holland, Michigan. He had trouble getting recruited after he broke his ankle during his junior season. He ended up finishing his time with the Maroons with 3,204 yards and 40 touchdowns to 18 interceptions. Cousins was set to sign with either Toledo or Western Michigan after high school, but after Mark D'Antonio missed out on some of his top targets at Michigan State University, he offered Cousins, and he accepted. Cousins spent his first season redshirting before backing up Brian Hoyer as a redshirt freshman. As a redshirt sophomore, Cousins won the starting job and kept it for his final 3 seasons with the Spartans. He had 9,131 yards and 66 touchdowns to 30 interceptions over his tenure at Michigan State. He was named second team All-Big Ten as a senior. At the 2012 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins used the 102nd pick in the 4th round to take Cousins. He majorly played a backup role for the Redskins during his first 3 seasons as he sat behind fellow rookie Robert Griffin III. Cousins went 2-7 with 3,030 yards and 18 touchdowns to 19 interceptions over the span. Cousins ended up winning the starting role for 2015 and played in every game with Griffin still on the roster. The Redskins went 9-7 and won the NFC East for the first time since 2012 behind Cousins' 4,166 yards and 29 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. He even led the league in completion percentage. Cousins was franchise tagged ahead of 2016 to stay in Washington and ended up excelling, making his first Pro Bowl after passing for 4,917 yards and 25 touchdowns to 12 interceptions and leading the Redskins to an 8-7-1 record. Again, Cousins and the Redskins couldn't get a deal done in the offseason and he was franchise tagged, becoming the first quarterback to be franchise tagged in consecutive seasons. Cousins continued to put up good numbers, recording 4,093 yards and 27 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. After going 7-9, the Redskins finally let Cousins walk ahead of 2018 after they traded for Alex Smith. Cousins signed a monster 3-year, $84 million fully guaranteed contract with the Minnesota Vikings. It was the highest paying contract in NFL history at the time. Cousins played well with 4,298 yards and 30 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. The numbers were good, but the Vikings went from playing in the NFC Championship to going 8-7-1 and missing the playoffs. The scrutiny on Cousins was very harsh, but he was able to rebound in 2019. The Vikings went 10-5 with Cousins at the helm, and he passed for 3,603 yards and 26 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. He made his second career Pro Bowl. This offseason, the Vikings decided they wanted to keep Cousins around, signing him to a 2-year, $66 million extension. The Cousins pick certainly paid off for the Redskins, and now the Vikings are signing his huge paychecks, but how about the quarterbacks taken before him? With the first overall pick at the 2012 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts selected Stanford's Andrew Luck. Luck is one of the highest rated prospects ever. Suck for Luck was a movement league-wide, and it was well worth it early in Luck's career in Indy. His first 3 seasons were all nearly identical, going 11-5 and making the Pro Bowl every season. Luck led the league with 40 touchdowns in 2014 and overall had 12,957 yards and 86 touchdowns to 43 interceptions over the 3 years. His lack of offensive line over his first 3 seasons started to wane on him in 2015, with Luck only playing 7 games before suffering from a lacerated kidney and a torn abdominal muscle. He returned in 2016 to play in 15 games, but after the season, he underwent shoulder surgery that caused him to miss all of 2017. Luck returned in 2018 and looked to be back to true form. He was the comeback player of the Year and made the Pro Bowl. Things started to look up again for the Colts with the return of Luck. But then he shocked the football world when he decided to retire in the offseason due to injuries. He was 20-18 with 10,714 yards and 85 touchdowns to 45 interceptions after his first 3 seasons in the league. And at 29, in his prime, Luck stepped away from the game. The Washington Redskins own the second selection, where they took Baylor's Robert Griffin III. Griffin took the lead by storm as a rookie, helping the Redskins rattle off 7 consecutive wins to end the regular season after starting 3-6. He ended up going 9-6, was named Offensive Rookie of the Year, and made the Pro Bowl after passing for 3,200 yards and 20 touchdowns to 5 interceptions and rushing for 815 yards and 7 touchdowns. The future was bright for Griffin, but concerns quickly started piling up. He suffered an LCL sprain in Week 14 and was not cleared by doctors to return. Despite that, Mike Shanahan started Griffin in the wildcard round against the Seahawks, where Griffin re-injured his knee and had to have surgery. Griffin did not perform near his rookie season in 2013, going 3-10 while recording 3,203 yards and 16 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, along with 489 rushing yards. Griffin was inactive late in the season in favor of Kirk Cousins. He quickly got injured in 2014, suffering a dislocated ankle in Week 2. Griffin ended up going 2-5, getting the starting job after Colt McCoy was put on injured reserve. Griffin had 1,694 yards and 4 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. The Redskins decided that was enough and had him inactive for all of 2015 before releasing him. Griffin tried to make a comeback in 2016, going 1-4 and passing for 886 yards and 2 touchdowns to 3 interceptions with the Browns. He then spent a year out of football before signing with the Ravens in 2018, where he has gone 1-0 with 246 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions over his first 2 seasons in Baltimore. 8th overall, the Miami Dolphins drafted Texas A&M's Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill was supposed to be the savior in Miami. He played 6 years with the Dolphins, never winning over 8 games or winning any additional accolades. Tannehill was 42-46 with 20,434 yards and 123 touchdowns to 75 interceptions over his tenure. Seen as a bust, Miami traded Tannehill to the Titans ahead of 2019 for a pair of late picks. In his 7th season, Tannehill finally broke through. He took over in Week 7 as the starter and rallied, going 7-3 with 2,742 yards and 22 touchdowns to only 6 interceptions. The Titans made it to the AFC Championship, and he led the league in passer rating, making his first Pro Bowl, and he was named Comeback Player of the Year. During the offseason, Tannehill signed a 4-year, $118 million extension. Oklahoma State's Brandon Weeden was taken 22nd by the Cleveland Browns. Weeden was the oldest player ever taken in the first round at 28 years old. He previously played 5 seasons in minor league baseball after being drafted by the New York Yankees in the 2nd round of the 2002 MLB draft. Weeden had a brutal 2-year tenure in Cleveland, winning the job as a rookie and again the following season. He went 5-15 with 5,116 yards and 23 touchdowns to 26 interceptions. Weeden was released after the 2013 season. He went on to play a backup role for the Cowboys for a year and a half before being released. Then Weeden was claimed off waivers by the Texans, where he spent a year and a half as a backup. In 2017, Weeden was active for a single game as a member of the Titans, and in 2018 appeared in a single play for the Texans. Weeden was 1-4 with 1,346 yards and 8 touchdowns to 4 interceptions after his time in Cleveland. With the 57th pick in the 2nd round, the Denver Broncos selected Arizona State's Brock Osweiler. Osweiler spent his first 3 seasons in the league as the backup to Peyton Manning. He finally got a chance to see the field in 2015 after Manning was sidelined due to injury. Osweiler ended up starting 7 consecutive games despite Manning returning to practice, going 5-2 and recording 1,967 yards and 10 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Osweiler was ultimately benched in the Broncos finale after turning over the ball 3 times. It was announced that he had suffered a knee injury. Osweiler remained on the bench throughout the playoffs as the Broncos went on to win Super Bowl 50. His success starting in Denver earned him a monster 4-year, $72 million contract with the Texans in the offseason. He went 8-6 with 2,957 yards and 15 touchdowns to 16 interceptions. After 1 year, Houston gave up on Osweiler, trading him to the Browns with 2 picks, including a 2nd rounder, just for a 4th round compensatory pick. They essentially gave up a 2nd round pick to get rid of his huge contract. Osweiler was released ahead of the season and signed a league minimum deal with the Broncos. He then played with the Dolphins in 2018. After his lone season in Houston, Osweiler went 2-7 with with 2,335 yards and 11 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. He announced his retirement during the 2019 season. The Seattle Seahawks owned the 75th selection in the 3rd round, where they took Wisconsin's Russell Wilson. We don't even need to take a long look into the career of Wilson. He is by far the best quarterback from the draft and is still one of the league's best players today. Wilson was named Pepsi Rookie of the Year, has been named an All-Pro, and in 8 seasons has made the Pro Bowl 7 times. He's led the league in both passing touchdowns and passer rating. And who could forget, he led the Seahawks to their first and only Super Bowl victory in just his 2nd season in the league. Wilson has also made a pretty penny in his career, signing a 4-year, $87.6 million extension in 2015 and a 4-year, $140 million extension ahead of the 2019 season. In his career, Wilson is 87-41-1 with 30,056 yards and 231 touchdowns to 68 interceptions. 88th overall, the Philadelphia Eagles drafted Arizona's Nick Foles. Foles is the ultimate journeyman. He ended up taking over as the Eagles starter and in his 2nd season led the league in passer rating while making the Pro Bowl. He went 15-9 and recorded 6,753 yards and 46 touchdowns to 17 interceptions in 3 seasons before the Eagles decided to ship him off to the Rams in a trade that involved Sam Bradford. Foles played 1 year in St. Louis before signing and playing with the Chiefs for a season, going 5-7 with 2,462 yards and 10 touchdowns to 10 interceptions over the span. Foles decided to sign with the Eagles as a backup for 2017, but after Carson Wentz went down, Foles took over, and it was wild. He threw for 246 yards in the divisional round before throwing for 352 yards and 3 touchdowns in the NFC Championship. Then in Super Bowl 52, St. Nick got it done once again, going for 373 yards and 3 touchdowns to a lone interception while adding a receiving touchdown on the iconic Philly special. He was named Super Bowl MVP, and the Eagles won their first Super Bowl. Somehow a similar situation happened a year later, taking over late in the season and helping the Eagles make the playoffs and win a playoff game before being bounced. In his 2 years during his 2nd stint in Philadelphia, he was 6-2 with only 1,950 yards and 12 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. But the postseason is all that matters. Foles signed a 4-year, $88 million deal with the Jaguars ahead of 2019, but struggled, going 0-4 with 736 yards and 3 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. The Jaguars opted to trade him away to the Bears this offseason for a compensatory pick. And finally, with the 102nd pick in the 4th round of the 2012 NFL Draft, the Washington Redskins took Michigan State's Kirk Cousins. Cousins is the epitome of a late-round quarterback steal. Not only was he a 4th rounder, but he wasn't even the first quarterback the Redskins took. Cousins was a happy surprise for the Redskins, and the Vikings liked him enough to give up boatloads of cash, but the quarterbacks ahead of him didn't have similar pro experiences, especially not the first quarterback the Redskins took.